Hello and welcome to Adventures in Theater History, where we bring you the best stories from the deep and fascinating history of theater in the city of Philadelphia. I'm your host, Peter Schmitz. Looking back over the last few months of episodes on this podcast, all of these episodes that I've been really proud of, it struck me that 7 out of the last 8 interview subjects I've talked to have been men. Now, not that there's anything wrong with that, as the joke goes, but still, and I don't want to get exclusively binary in gender distribution here, but I felt strongly that I needed more female theater folks in the room, and that's why I was really glad when Zach Berkman, the current artistic director of People's Light Theater Company, contacted me and persuasively suggested that the next people with a deep knowledge of the last few decades of Philadelphia theater that I should talk to are Abigail Adams and Marcia Saunders. Now, Zach wasn't without an agenda here because Marcia and Abby are currently working together on a new production of Steel Magnolias by Robert Harling, which is going up at his theater out there in Malvern very soon. And as it turns out, I've known both of these people for a long time. Indeed, Abby was one of our Alexander Method teachers at NYU Drama School in the 1980s, and she also directed many of my classmates in student theater productions, and I met Marcia while working recently at the Wilma Theater. Well, not recently, about 10 years ago. So, yes, I told Zach, yes, what a great idea. Absolutely. But just in case you don't know these people, and since they both have very long and formidable careers, their bios take a bit of time to read. So let me bring out our Adventures in Theater History House Orchestra once again to play underneath while I introduce them to you. Abigail Adams has been associated with People's Light for 50 years. As an associate artistic director to the company's co-founder, Danny Fruchter, she established the New Voices Ensemble at People's Light in 1990. She was co-artistic director of the company with Stephen Novelli in the years 1993 to 1997, became sole artistic director in 1997, and was named executive artistic director from 2013 to 2022. Abby has directed more than 60 plays at People's Light, including Our Town, The Matchmaker, The Cherry Orchard, The Rainmaker, The Trip to Bountiful, Nathan the Wise, plus Mornings at 7 and In the Blood, both of which won Barrymore Awards for outstanding direction of a play. Abby served for 10 years on the faculty of Swarthmore College and has also taught Alexander Technique at New York University, Bryn Mawr College, Carnegie Mellon University, and the Shakespeare Festival in Stratford, Ontario. More recently, at People's Light, she has directed such plays as Birthday Candles, Off by One, The Children, and The Vinegar Tree. The actress Marcia Saunders has been a company member at People's Light from 1976, performing roles in almost 100 productions, including Cora in Mornings at 7, Nancy in Grand Horizons, Hazel in The Children, Virginia Woolf in A Room of One's Own, Stella in Stella and Lou, Mrs. Bennet in Pride and Prejudice, Dottie in Noises Off, Nurse Ratched in One Floor of the Cuckoo's Nest, Amanda in The Glass Menagerie, and Lady Macbeth. She received Barrymore nominations for many of these roles, but it was playing Claire in Edward Albee's A Delicate Balance that garnered Marcia a 2002 Best Supporting Actress Award. Marcia made her directorial debut with Steel Magnolias at Candlelight Theater in Delaware, and she performed in The Intelligent Design of Jenny Chow at the Atlantic Theater Company in New York. She is married to the director and stage fight choreographer Charles Conwell. Thank you, Maestro. And now, as the musicians clear away, on a very serious note, before we begin this interview, let me mention just one more thing. I spoke to Abby and Marcia while I myself was preparing to start teaching very soon for a new semester at Temple University, and while they were in the midst of technical rehearsals for their show, which, after all, is a play that Robert Harling wrote as a way of dealing with his own grief about the loss of his sister. Which, as it turned out, was extremely fitting in a way, since as we three spoke together, well, we were all in shock and mourning for episodes of violence and horror happening all across the world and in our own nation, but most particularly in another urban community that I was once a resident of, the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. This entire conversation took place with the images of what had recently been happening there washing through our consciousnesses. And though we never mention it directly, I know the three of us could hardly help being affected. It was, in fact, as actors say, the subtext to our conversation. For the record, we spoke together over Zoom on January 9th, 2026. Abigail Adams and Marcia Saunders, welcome to Adventures in Theater History.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right. This is my first interview of the year 2026, and we're here together over Zoom at the suggestion of Zach Berkman, the current artistic director of People's Light, because you two are currently working on a production together, which we'll talk about in a minute, I promise. But he thought it was of definite historical interest that you two have been, in fact, working together in one form or another for about, pardon the expression, half a century now. You two first met, and I heard this from Marcia the other day, you first met back in the 1970s.
I think we met in Chester Springs.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When Abby and I did several plays together there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can see that you're both of you right now sitting out in Malvern. You're in different offices out there at People's Light in Malvern, and I'm sitting in my home base. But it's just so wonderful to have you both together and see you both together on the screen. Now, you're currently in tech rehearsals for Steel Magnolias. And Steel Magnolias is not a play with a particular Philadelphia connection. It's set in Louisiana. It's not by a Philadelphia playwright. It didn't premiere here or anything. But why is this a play that interests you both right now, that you want to share as an experience with your audience at this very fraught time in America? Why does this play need to be done now?
My first response is community and support and people having each other's back in a very deep way.
Okay. But Abby, are you the one that chose this piece? You said, did you propose to bring it forward?
No, at People's Light, it's never one person who chooses anything. We'd been planning to do this actually before COVID. And
before 2020, that's over.
Yeah, and then COVID
5 years
made
ago.
that impossible. And then Marcia became a great champion of our doing this. And for me, almost always, the choice of play is tied to the choice of the actors.
Who are the other actors in this piece that you're wanting to work with?
Well, Janice Dardaris,
Mm-hmm.
Susan McKee, Claire Iney Richards, Marcia, Terry Lamb. So all of them I have known between 20 and almost 50 years.
Wow. And what would you say, Abby, is the reason now that you've been working on it? How is it speaking to you? How is the narrative about this family in Louisiana and the problems with illness and diabetes and family issues? What is it? Do you feel it's about community? What's the word that springs out in your mind?
Well, there's tremendous support among these women for each other and how you get through very difficult times. So that we can all relate to.
It's rather difficult times right now, isn't it?
Yes,
in
it is
many ways.
difficult times.
Yeah, but not on a personal level. I hope you both are doing very well personally right now. So I hope it's not about that. But I know in the larger sense, we're all sort of aware that it's a difficult time. But let's go back now. Tell me about your origins in Philadelphia theater. Abby, why don't you start? Where did you grow up? How did you get interested in theater? Why did this become your life's passion?
I grew up in Rose Valley, so Hedgerow was very much part of where I lived. It was about a mile from my home. So I started taking classes at Hedgerow when I was about 12.
Who were you studying with?
Dolores Tanner and then Rose Schulman. That was a big deal when you got bumped up to Rose, and I was about 13 when that happened. She was terrifying, but I did learn a lot, and I drew quite a lot, and I was actually hired when I was a teenager to draw marketing materials. And my father, who is an architect, used to play poker with Rose.
Yes, I've heard about those poker sessions at Hedgerow House.
Yeah.
He
He
played
beat
for
her.
real stakes, yeah.
Yeah. In my family, we always thought my father should really become a professional poker player because he didn't make any money in architecture.
Part of a long history of Rose Valley architects in that same
Yes.
way.
Yes.
But so, and you work with Rose Schulman, who's terrifying. I don't think we would allow someone working with young children to be terrifying anymore. But that was a little bit of the aesthetic at Hedgerow back in those days.
Yeah, and she actually very much formed some of my categories with regard to reading because she would tell us that if you read plays that were not well written, it would hurt your character.
Wow.
And it was very scary. And basically, we were to read Chekhov and Shaw and Ibsen and Molnar and some Shakespeare. And we should be focused on that and not fritter away our time on anything else because it would really do damage.
Wow. But how about you at the time? How did this strike you as a young person?
It scared me, and I've never been able to read trash fiction. I think that's the reason why.
Marcia, how about you? What was your introduction to the theater? How did you get involved in this?
My real introduction too was I had heard about Hedgerow and I had not been pleased at all with the schools that I had gone to. I had this hankering to get to New York, but my parents at the time were living in Newtown Square, and I'd heard about Hedgerow, and I drove over to Hedgerow, and I will never, ever, ever forget this feeling of walking in at the top of Hedgerow, not below now where they have an entrance, but I felt like I was walking into a church, and it was the most powerful feeling of being embraced by this theater.
And this was the pre-fire Hedgerow before they had
way before
the
fire.
Yeah.
And also seeing Wharton Eschrich's furniture in the room, it just spoke to me. So I had, from the age of 16, I had wanted to be an actress because of Barbra Streisand and Funny Girl.
Wait, go back there. You wanted to be an actress because of Barbra Streisand?
I saw Funny Girl 10 times and I was so moved. Now, apparently, friends tell me I did plays when I was in elementary school, but I don't remember them. But I remember seeing Funny Girl and being so moved. And then somebody in the senior class said, "Do you want to be in the desk set?" And I said, "Sure." So I was in the desk set and it was all about makeup and what I was wearing. I mean, I have a freaking clue about acting. And so after I left there, I went to Vermont College for 1 year, then went to Stevens College for 1 year. And when I was at Stevens, I was not happy. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand the exercises. And so I came home, and that's when I went to Hedgerow. And I started to study with Rose, who scared the bahoo-ha out of me.
Did you also get the instructions about what to read and how to live your
No,
life?
I didn't get that. But she majorly stressed coming from your groin.
Okay, you just slapped your belly a couple times.
I did. It was, she was saying, push it down there, get it into your being, your soul. So I worked with Rose for quite some time, and then I lose track of myself. The next major thing was I'd met my former husband at Hedgerow.
John Loven, right?
John Loven.
Yeah.
And we went to New York. We're in New York for 4 years, got married, and had contacted Danny Fruchter about something to do in the summer.
Right.
And we came down and did a prison tour. And I had also performed a piece, Abelard and Eloise, at Strode's Mill. Anyway, I'm losing my train of thought. So
I also have in here that both of you, and this is from your bios, and let me make sure I put this right, because it says there you went to Lambda.
Oh, yes, I did go to Lambda.
So you went
to
London.
That was much later. I was 32 years old when it was after my divorce.
I see.
It had always been a major love of mine to go to study in England.
So what did you learn there in London from your teachers there?
The irony of that was that I went for restoration comedy.
Yeah.
The restoration comedy director.
Okay.
He taught the class to us at Lambda like a method acting. There
Oh.
was nothing of the manners and all the stuff that I was going there.
Right.
And the irony was, Michael McCallion was here in Malvern,
Uh-huh.
taught me more about restoration comedy
Okay.
than I had gone to England for. But I'll tell you what did happen. I saw 61 plays, some of the most extraordinary actors. I saw Road to Mecca 3 times. Yvonne Braceland was, Atul Fugard's favorite
Mm-hmm.
actress.
Right.
And I learned more. I feel like my learning has come so much by watching really good people work. And also just being in London and traveling every weekend, and just the whole experience of being there for a year
Right.
shaped me enormously.
But Abby, it
Um,
also says here that you were at RADA at some point. When did you go to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts?
Right after high school.
Yeah. So
When
did you not go to college? Was
no,
RADA your?
I was the youngest one at RADA till the day I left.
Wow.
And I was there almost 3 years. The course was almost 3 years.
So this was in the mid 1970s.
Yeah.
And
And
why was that the thing you decided to do? This is where I need
well,
to go in
I
life,
had
mom, dad.
overheard somebody talk about RADA at a hedgerow class that I was in, a Saturday class that Rose was teaching. And I had been apprenticing in the summers, and I was 16, 17. My father wanted me to go to Yale. It was just starting to take women, I think.
Mhm.
And or I could have gone to Wellesley. That was sort of the deal in my family. And I didn't want to do either. And I thought, oh, I'll go to RADA if I can possibly get in. And so I did. And I
Well,
auditioned. I was 17
was there an American audition, or did you have to go over there
in New York.
in New York? Okay,
And I'd never even been to New York.
right.
So it was a big deal to audition. And I did Lady Macbeth.
At 16.
Yeah, I shook my way all the way through it.
Well, the boy that originally did Lady Macbeth was probably no older. So
Yeah,
absolutely correct. Yes.
yeah. And, miraculously, I got in. So 2 weeks after my 18th birthday, I was in London.
What was it like telling your friends who were all saying, "Oh, well, I'm going off to Penn or I'm going off to Swarth," and you say, "Well, I'm going to London." Did you feel like you had found a special adventure in life and everyone else was in awe of you?
I think I felt I thought it was an escape path that got me out of going to college. And in retrospect, I might have been happier at Yale. I don't know. It was very hard. I'm so glad that I did it. It was an amazing education in all sorts of ways. Like Marcia, we saw plays almost every night for the first year and a half, and it was either free or dirt cheap. So that was one of the big educations. And then I had this tutor because they worked on a tutorial system named Michael McCallion, who was a very fine voice and text teacher, who I was then able years later to bring to people's light.
As Marcia just told us. Yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
And he was able to talk about the stylistic things
Yeah.
that you needed to do. Well, then somehow, Marcia, you were in New York with your husband, John, and you came back down to Chester County, I find from a newspaper interview, because you guys got fed up waiting tables and performing only when you were lucky and a role every 2 or 3 years. How did you get invited to come back down to Pennsylvania? Who said,
well,
"Hey, you, come back"?
that's where we contacted Danny and said, Danny, is there anything going
Danny Frucht.
that Danny Fruchter
Yeah.
that we could participate in? So Danny said, yes, I'd love for you to come down and do a prison tour. And we picked this gorgeous play called Tigers, which was by Kendrew Lassell, South African playwright. I realized I never wanted to go back to New York.
And you had grown up in that part of the
Well,
sort of
actually,
upstate?
no, I
No?
didn't even know that Chester Springs existed when we lived in Malvern. But New York made me a nervous wreck. I mean, I'm pretty high strung, and that kind of energy, I'll never forget the first week I was there. It felt like the ground was just trembling.
Right.
And then we went to Staten Island and it wasn't trembling. I went, oh, that's interesting. But I had all that, I was 20, it's like 20 years old.
Right.
I was young. Anyway, I did some training there and All I know is that I never wanted to go back to New York and that I wanted to stay and that I loved being with the group of people that was People's Light.
And Abby, that soon included you as well. How did your journey bring you back to this part of the world? You'd been in London. Why not stay there? Why not move on to New York? What brought you back to?
Well, I ended up being in London for 4 years, and there wasn't any way I could stay and work.
Just because of visa issues and so
But I'd
forth.
also figured out that I really didn't want to act unless I could choose the play, choose the director, choose the cast. So I came back and I never knew Danny and Kenny at Hedgerow. They were older.
Ken
Um,
Marini, you mean? Yeah.
yes, Ken Marini, Meg Fruchter, Danny Fruchter, Dick Keeler. But I knew of them and I knew that there had been a breaking and that this new company, People's Light, had been formed. So when I got back, I contacted them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had also decided to train as an Alexander teacher. So I just started doing actually lights with Dick Keeler, who I did know from Hedgerow when I was a kid.
Right. Dick Keeler, who founded the People's Light Company,
Yes.
the tin cans and the light bulbs
Yeah.
and the van, and he would come and light your show.
Well, yeah, and that's where when you had a dimmer board, so you
Right.
were so important to the rhythm of the play, and you learn a lot using those dimmer boards.
Right. But
Uh,
Abby, you joined the company, according to what I see, as in a production of John Brown's Body as an actress. And I note in a review, somebody said you would go far in the acting profession. And then you immediately did not.
no, I did about 4 or 5 plays at People's Light, and then I just knew this was not the thing for me. And I'd gotten interested in directing and writing. I started writing the children's touring productions for the company. And then I went to Stratford, Ontario for 3 seasons to teach the company the Alexander technique. So I had a whole period of time where I was going back and forth, but People's Light was my home from the time I was about 23, 24. But there were periods of time where I was off teaching
Right.
and doing other things.
But you were writing and creating projects like I noticed there's one called Kites, which
Hmm.
apparently was the first real original production that People's Light ever did. It was
Yeah.
created there. What did that feel like? Being able to begin by creating your own work at such an age?
I don't know what it felt like, really. It just seemed like a natural evolution, and we were all doing everything all the time.
Marcia is nodding now in agreement, and this was, I think, when it moved from Strode's Mill.
Moved from Strode's Mill actually because of Cordelia Biddle getting us in what is now the township building in Chester Springs.
Right,
We didn't go from there to here.
right. Then
We
Yellow
went
Springs for a
from
while.
Chester
Right,
Springs to Malvern.
right. Okay. And what was that? I don't know that space at all. Was that again another barn sort of space?
Yeah, it was a big black box in a
Yeah.
barn, certainly much larger than Strode's Mill. And it was a very controversial move. In those days, everybody voted on any big decision. And Dick Keeler voted against going to Chester Springs. Gradually, he came round, I think. He certainly voted against coming to Malvern. I guess we were at Chester Springs about 2 years, and then we
Right.
were more or less kicked out and had to find a place in a hurry. And that's how we came to Malvern.
So, Abby, in a 2021 interview that I found with both you and Zach Berkman in American Theater Magazine, you and he talked about the conundrum of People's Light, about it's both part of Philadelphia theater in terms of the artists who work there. All the actors and directors and designers work at many theaters throughout the area. And yet, in other ways, it's not. It's not a Philadelphia theater. It's way out there. 85% of the audience comes from within a 15-mile radius of Malvern, and that does not include any part of the city of Philadelphia. But it is part of sort of the heritage from Hedgerow that People's Light has. Hedgerow was deliberately founded outside the city. When Jasper Dieter first founds it, he said, we don't want it to be an urban experience. We feel that we can do something away from the commercial pressures, that we can concentrate on things, that we can develop a very particular audience. Do you feel that that has passed on to the People's Light aesthetic and experience?
To some extent, I think it has changed and has certainly broadened and widened. But always the idea was that we wanted to create a theater that was tied to the communities where we lived, where we could send our children to local schools, participate in the civic life of the area. So that has really, for the core group, continued. But it was also our families and our friends of families
Yeah.
and the people, our neighbors. That's really where we started.
Right.
And of course, Chester Springs had a very wealthy community, and that was very helpful in beginning to build a donor base. And Danny really was a rainmaker in the early days of People's Light in terms of developing financial investment.
Yeah, tell us more about Danny Fruchter's leadership in those early years. What was it like working beside and with him on this new project?
I really felt like Danny was the Joseph Papp of Malvern. I mean, he really, really extended theater and wanted to get it to the people. I really got that sense about Danny, that he really wanted to create community and outreach, and then it has been totally, and I'll turn this over to Abby, really has been just exponentially just developed incredibly over the years based on Abby's leadership and the beginnings of what Danny was doing. That's just where I'm coming from.
Yeah, when Danny shed his light on you, it was really magical. And he was an excellent producer. Sort of, if the story wasn't clear, he was very articulate about what would make it clear. And he had a very clear idea about consensus, actually. We worked together in our decision making. And Danny was the one who really created that foundation.
Yeah.
Well, that's different from Joseph Papp, isn't it? Joseph Papp was famous for saying, we can't have a committee. I'm going to be the decider.
No,
But you're
Danny
saying
was
that
not
Danny
like
had
that
a
at all.
different process there. Yeah. So we've talked, of course, already with the great Tom Teddy about his history at the People's Light. And although we haven't yet talked about many other of the great, actors working at People's Light Theater Company over the years, from the beginning, Alda Cortez, Janice Dardaris, Carla Belver, Catherine McNeil, and many people who are working, all in their 20s and 30s for the most part in those early years. Who else would you like to highlight? Maybe some of the designers and directors. It was Louis Lippa, who we talked about with Chris Lippa, Ken Marini, Marla Jurglanis, James Pine, any of the amazing stage managers that have worked there. What great people from those early days would you like to single out as needing having a
Well,
memory?
our stage manager right now, Deborah Teller, has been here for many years. She left for a period of time, but has come back. Audrey Brown has been here since the late 1990s. So those are the two that have been around the most. Chaz Brastow, still our director of production. He was a
I
stage
was
manager.
just setting up the Zoom call for
Yes.
both of you as I logged
Yeah.
in. God bless him.
So, and our TD, Joe Franz, has been here
From the get-go.
many, many years. He's the only one that really understands how the property works. And there's Steve Novelli,
Right, another one of the acting company. Yeah.
longtime actor. Leonard Haas,
Another person that we perhaps need to get sometime on the podcast.
Dennis Parashy, who is lighting this production. Dennis first came to work with us in the late 90s and has lit everything that I have done. Dennis is 87. Our sound designer right now, Carson, is 31. And that is very much a part of People's Light too. This very wide generational mix.
Right. Yes. Oh, thank you. And that brings me to the next question. That they've made an effort to be bringing in, the new generation of people. I know, in particular, there was a time in the 1990s when you guys were recruiting and you were bringing in Frank Wood and David Ingram, Catherine Peterson, and other younger people.
Melanie
Finister, of course.
Mary Beth, Scallon, yeah.
Scallon.
Right. Yeah. And so has it felt like you're integrating different generations in, so that this tradition can be carried on, and if all things go well, you'll be working here when you're 87, guys?
Oh, I hope not. But no, I think one of the major forces of change, all good, is the diversification of the company,
Mhm.
uh, whether that's age or race or whatever.
Well, when we're speaking about that, we could list dozens and dozens of People's Light productions that you both have been working on. I've got a list of them here. And rather than me just reading off a laundry list of productions, I'm interested to know when you think back, what stands out? And you're like, that was the moment, that was the production where I felt like this is what I want to be doing. This is exactly what I came here for. This is why I continue to come back. Is there a particular production that stands out to you, Marcia?
First one that pops into my mind, there are actually several, but the first one that pops into my mind is Toys in the Attic with Carla Belver. Carla and I
Was
worked
the Lillian Hellman play?
the Lillian Hellman play. And what was interesting at the time is Carla's older than I am, but she played my younger sister in that. And Carla and I did so much work outside of rehearsal,
Mhm.
developing that sister relationship and the relationship to our brother. And when I will never forget this feeling as long as I live, I stepped on that stage and I felt like I was stepping into my home on that stage.
Abby, what do you remember as something that sticks out in
A
your mind?
fairly recent experience in 2020, early, right before things locked down, and it was a production of The Children with Marcia, Janice, and Graham Smith. And we felt so lucky to be doing that production because we were all of a similar age, and it was fantastic roles and a really important play.
Well, before that, many of you had also worked on Mornings at Seven.
Yes, that was another one. And
Yeah.
that was, I had seen Mornings at Seven I went twice in New York in the 80s. It was an amazing production. And I'd always wanted to direct it. And I guess, when did that happen? 2017, something like
I think
that.
that's right. Yeah.
And I thought, well, if we don't do it soon, everybody's going to be too old.
Oh,
And we, again, like this production, it was very much cast with the company in mind.
right.
And so that was kind of a thrill for me to direct that play with this particular group of people.
So how does the long relationship of working with familiar people, which we just talked about, affect about how you're working on this show? You're doing this in the Steinbreit stage?
We're doing a Steinbreit.
And Abby, what is it like working with Claire Eining Richards is a younger actor, but someone's, again, you have plenty of experience with her. How is the work of a director working with a cast of people that you turn to again and again over the years? How does that help you as a director, or what are the challenges that are inherent in that scenario?
Well, for the most part, there's a level of trust. So you can be more straightforward, I think. This is a very opinionated cast. Very.
Tell me more what you mean by that.
They each have a very clear idea of what they think they are doing and what they need. And so there is a fair amount of negotiating. And I think as I've grown older and more experienced, I offer less and less and less. What I'm interested in is how the actors work it out. I'm not the one doing it. And I'm keenly aware of that. And in terms of staging and so forth, it's always best if it comes about organically. It takes longer,
Yes.
but I'm
Isn't
not
that
very
annoying that you have to
interested.
still go through the same work every time?
Yeah.
It doesn't take any shorter period. There's no magic shortcut.
Mm-mm.
Wouldn't that
And
be
I'm
nice?
not
Yeah.
interested. It's funny because I wanted to be a set designer and I've always done a lot of drawing, but I'm not interested in creating a stage picture that actors should fill.
So you don't work pictorially. You're not creating
Oh,
images, you feel.
I am, but it's by watching them and then knitting it together.
Okay, choosing from what they've offered to
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah.
rather
And
than
if you
making them.
change one thing, that's going to change a whole lot of other things. And that's why it takes longer.
Finally,
I think that's
go ahead,
where
Mark.
I found it tricky also.
What particular moment in the play coming up, Marcia, are you, for the moment, have you just discovered that you're enjoying living through? You're familiar with this piece. You've done it before. But what are you discovering now? What is
Do you
making
know
the
what's so
present moment
interesting,
work for you?
Peter, is I directed this 10 years ago and it's like I never even touched it because it's so different. I think what's really happening now, and Abby has been terrific about this, is really developing the relationship that Clary and I have, and also the joy of how these women communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Abby's really punching that up, which is great and really fun.
Who's your set designer this time? Who has worked on this production?
Daniel Zimmerman,
Oh,
set
nice.
designer, who I've worked with on a number of projects.
Right. And Abby, you've never worked on the play before, though, right?
No.
No. So what are you finding since you're new to the play? You're familiar with everything else around you, but the text itself is new. What have you found, at this point in your life, in your career, to pick up a play, not a new play, but to make it a new play? What has been the spark? What has been the thing that makes it glow?
It's all about the actors, and their long-term relationships really mirror the long-term relationships in the play. And we have one new actor.
Who's that?
Bryn Gauthier, who plays Annelle, and there's another sort of parallel. She's coming into a community of artists here at People's Light. Annelle is coming into the community of Steel Magnolias. Those kinds of parallels to me are important. There's a tremendous amount of love in this play. And when you ask why it's important to do it, I think that's when you get right down to it. That's the bottom line. Expressions of love right now. Yeah.
Well, Marcia Saunders, Abigail Adams, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's been a pleasure to see you both again, and I'm looking forward to coming and seeing this play. We don't spend a lot of time on this podcast hyping current work. That's not our particular mission. But I think it's important for me and for our listeners to remember that this project that I'm on is in service of an overall goal of reinvesting and rethinking about what we're doing in the present moment, because theater doesn't exist in the past. There's only now. So let's find out why we now need to go back and share experiences and stories and artistry with each other. So thank you both for being with us here today.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
All right. Bye-bye.
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 So that's our show. I want to thank all the lovely folks at People's Light there who helped make this interview happen. Zach Berkman, Carol Flannery, Lindsay Doyle, Levi Gray, Deborah Teller, Chaz Brasto, and Joe Franz. And also to the other members of the Steel Magnolia cast and crew for sparing Abby and Marcia for an hour during tech while we chatted together. Thanks to all of you wonderful people out there listening today. There is no blog post on the website for this episode. Too much going on right now to get one together, I'm afraid. But there is a link to the People's Light webpage about Steel Magnolias in the show notes. I'll be back next time to talk about the deep background of another theatrical production that is about to happen in the Philadelphia area, the Egopo Theater Company's production of that classic play of South Philadelphia, Gemini, by the late Albert Inarritu. I'll be talking to folks who knew the Philadelphia-born and raised playwright personally to find out the backstory of his most famous work and subsequent theatrical life. I'm Peter Schmitz, and our theme music is by Christopher Mark Colucci. Additional music provided by Epidemic Sound. Thank you for coming along with us on another adventure in theater history, Philadelphia.